Well, we've definitely seen better days than this, but it doesn't stop us coming into the greenhouse and still getting a little bit of something done. You're probably going to notice at this time of year that your pepper plants are slowing down. You've got peppers on them and they are ripening, albeit slow. But your plants by now are going to be quite big plants, full of leaves. What I like to do at this time of year, in preparation for overwintering, is take off all the old leaves. Any big leaves that's been on that plant for a long time, any leaves that are looking like they're yellowing slightly as well. And basically just strip it right back, leaving any fruits on there that are trying to grow, small ones, and any large ones that's almost ripe. Just take all the big leaves off and just leave fresh growth on there, small leaves. And by doing that, the plant is then putting less energy into trying to sustain those large leaves, and then more energy into growing any small fruits that might be on that plant. But also at the same time, you're going to let in more light by doing that, and your fruits that are on there are going to ripen even quicker, which is what we want in September. So I do the same thing every year. I remove as many of the leaves from the plant as I can, just leaving all that fresh growth in the hope that the fruit that's on there will fully ripen and any small ones will grow a little bit bigger before we reach that point where we completely cut them back to overwinter indoors. We'll get a couple of plants and I'll show you what I do with them as we start and approach autumn. Especially when you come out and find that your sweet bell peppers are now ripe. We can take some of those straight away. I'm going to try and cut it off. That's a nice pepper and a good size too. And I'm cutting them off this plant rather than snapping them off, because at this time of year we're thinking about overwintering these peppers. So we don't want to run risk of damaging the stem in any way, so we cut them off. And this one's ready to go as well. And there is a couple more on this plant. And they're not completely red, but they're good enough. I just spotted this pepper, so I took it off. It looks a bit alien. And this one is a nice big plant, but it's got nothing on it. But I have noticed some of the leaves on top are starting to wilt a little bit. And there's a few that's starting to go yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely cut this plant back. And that way you can see what I do when I overwinter plants and to what extent. So basically we need to go around and get rid of all leaves. And you want to cut them off nice and clean, don't tear them off. That is starting to yellow. And you can see to what degree we're cutting this back, but we're not done yet. What I'm basically doing here is I'm taking away all these big leaves, all this year's leaves. We don't want those anymore. Any that look a bit worse for wear as well, because this plant's actually got a lot of new growth on it. And the more you cut back, the more you'll notice that there's still little buds on there. The thing is, when you're doing this at end of season, it seems really barbaric, but it's something that you need to do. Now you can see that we've took all the original leaves off. There's no big leaves left on there, just a few small ones and a bit of fresh growth. And when you start overwintering your peppers, it's kind of to that extent that you're going to have to do it. And the whole idea of me doing this at this time of year, I can see there's lots of little flower buds which potentially will become peppers. But because it's so late in year and the daylight's getting less every day, the temperatures are starting to drop, the chances of this plant growing any decent sized peppers now are pretty slim. But more so if it's also trying to still feed all those leaves that were on it. So by taking all the big leaves away, it's going to put more energy into trying its hardest to grow some small fruits, which will still be appreciated. But basically we took all that off. And then I'm going to give it a feed. And this is tomato food. And I'll give all the peppers a good feed today as well. So now it's all been completely cut back. There's quite a lot of flower buds, as I said, still on this plant. So now it's got a better chance of actually producing something before its first frost come, or in our case, before we've completely cut them back to overwinter. Because when it comes to that time, if you look at your pepper plants, you'll see just at the point where this stem starts to branch out, it forms a Y, and you need to strip it right back. No leaves whatsoever, no flower buds, and cut off branches as well. So you've got the stem and then you've got the Y and a couple of branches coming off. But you'll be removing pretty much most of them, and it's going to look devastating when you're finished, but it does work. And basically that plant then will sit in your house and you'll be giving it a water once every 2 or 3 weeks. That's all, because you're not trying to grow anything, you're just keeping the plant alive. Let it go dormant through autumn and winter, and then in spring it'll burst back into life and start putting out new growth, like those side shoots there on the stem. You'll get more and more of these growing, and they'll start popping out in between other branches as well. And before you know it, you'll have a big full plant. But it'll be a bigger plant as you go through spring and summer, and it will give you even more fruit. And to help with that, what we'll do as well is we'll pot it on into something a little bigger, just to give those roots more room to grow. So we'll try this for now and see if we can actually get anything more from this plant. Now we've reduced the amount of energy it's having to put into leaves that we don't really want at this time of year. And hopefully we'll get something, and if not, we'll cut it completely back and we'll take it indoors. If you're going to overwinter your plants, you need to leave them in house. You can't overwinter them outside, not even in a shed, because it gets too cold, and the first bit of frost that hits this plant, it'll die. So strip it back, take it in house, water it a little bit every 3 weeks or so, and make sure it actually gets light as well. It doesn't need full on sunlight, but it will need a few hours of sunlight a day just to maintain. We've got about 6 containers in here with big plants in like this, so they'll all be going in house. But you also want to spray your plants as well before you take them in, because there could be bugs on your plants that you can't see. Once the plant reaches a stage where you're harvesting pretty much all the decent fruit that it's got on it, do that, cut it right back, and you might just get that chance of getting some smaller ones before you completely cut it back. And we've also got another one in here, and this is looking a little bit worse for wear on leaves as well, but it's got loads of flowers on top and it's still trying to grow peppers. So once again, to give it a chance, I'll do the same thing to this plant. and see how that works out. And if you want to see how it works out on these plants as we enter into autumn and winter, then just hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and we'll see you next time. You all take care.